The 7th of May, when we Europeans commemorate the unconditional surrender of the Nazis to our allied liberators, is a true freedom day. The 26th of December, when we commemorate the end of the Soviet Union, is a freedom day. All the former Soviet states have their own respective freedom day. Freedom days remind us of the end of totalitarian tyrannies. Once the tyrannical, murderous and totalitarian CPP will finally fall, the wonderful people of China will celebrate a long overdue Freedom Day. Once the totalitarian North Korean tyranny ends, the tortured inhabitants of this wonderful nation will celebrate a Freedom Day. There are more nations in real need of a Freedom Day, needless to say. Freedom Day, what an interesting choice of name for the day when all COVID mandates supposedly end. I wonder who came up with this idea. The name makes it sound as if we got rid of some evil external oppressor. Those who issued the authoritarian COVID mandates onto our democracies, thus following the example of one of the most murderous, totalitarian and profoundly cynical regimes of our time, namely the CPP, would certainly like all of us to think of COVID in this way. Yet, we all know perfectly well the virus will remain with us, as well as many other viruses, sicknesses, and other economic, social, and environmental issues. And whenever such issues arise, they will challenge the very foundation upon which our cherished democracies were built by our ancestors. Therefore, let's remind ourselves why our ancestors wanted a democracy in the first place. They wanted it because all of them knew they did not want to live as slaves of authoritarian, totalitarian systems. They wanted each and every day of the year, 364 days, to be Freedom Day. The whole COVID episode is a litmus test of democracy, and it is by now quite clear we failed miserably. We allowed panic, fear, and hysteria to cloud our discernment and to overcome our sound judgment. And we even welcomed the authoritarian measures our equally terrified leaders resorted to. Many of us still support those measures vocally. In our confusion and fear, we even celebrated the oftentimes despicable treatment of those who dared to speak up against the mainstream. Ultimately, we wanted to be controlled so we could feel safe and secure. We prioritized health and safety over freedom and called anyone a menace to society who dared to speak up against this. Someone who grew up in Eastern Germany when it still was a totalitarian state once said that totalitarianism poses a massive temptation to those living under its rule, as it is indefinitely easier than freedom. The experts and the state take care of the common good. Everyone else complies and, in exchange, is being cared for. Safety, health, schooling, pensions, entertainment, as long as they comply. What's not to like? Isn't a little bit of compliance a relatively low price for all these advantages? Especially when the government, with its experts, tries to also end all discrimination by furthering gender and racial equity, prevent the otherwise unavoidable climate apocalypse, provides clarity on important issues, such as, for example, COVID, by forcefully suppressing alternating and potentially harmful narratives, and keeps us safe from each other's potentially bad influence/infectiousness, by regulating and controlling our way of interacting for our own best, of course. This would be just the version of totalitarianism the German Jewish philosopher Hannah Arendt, prophetically, alluded to when she wrote about a potential new regime of dull bureaucrats. Freedom, on the other side, is a tough trade-off. There's no guarantee for perfect safety when one chooses real freedom. Quite the contrary. Freedom is a dangerous, costly endeavor. If we are not willing to put our lives on the line for the sake of freedom, we are not worthy of freedom. Our ancestors knew this. Do we still know this? I think we ought not call the day when the mandates end Freedom Day, because we will not have experienced the end of a totalitarian tyranny. COVID wasn't our oppressor. The way we dealt with it was. We ourselves were, the majority of us. Personally, I think we rather should use that day to, once more, reflect deeply about whether we really want to be free or just safe and healthy. God bless you.